excited. Welcome to the Womenomics podcast. This is Soul Care for Entrepreneurs. We're framing the limitations of your mind. I'm your host, Tiara from T. Bryan Notary Services.
And I'm the co-host, Corinne Jones of Freedom Notary Services. And we have our special guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, ladies. My name is Jessica Cammock of Nashville On Time Signings, and I'm happy to be here with you guys today.
Awesome. So we are going to welcome Jessica today, and we're focusing on reframing limitations of your mind. And so today we're going to just, pick her brain and figure out what kind of mindset hacks that she applies so we can continue to add that to our mindset toolkit. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to focus on, what was it again, Tiara?
Belief in self.
Belief in self.
Yeah, because you need that. So we always like to start off with one question. And our first question is always, when did you know you could be an entrepreneur?
When did I know that I could be an entrepreneur? I don't know how to answer that question. I really don't. I did. My father is a big entrepreneur, so he really pushed that. But as far as me, I don't know that I know that yet.
Ooh,
and the main reason is because I'm still a bit timid and shy. So as far as like the full potential of being an entrepreneur, I don't think I could tap into those arenas yet. To say I know how to do the business, but as far as like what entrepreneur really is, the full throttle of it, I'm not there yet. So I don't know that I know it yet.
So do you think you are an entrepreneur today in any sense of the word?
In any sense of the word, yes.
Okay.
But to like the first degree, I picked it up pretty early in life just from seeing my dad and just knowing that I wanted time freedom. That man was always on the plane. That's all I really wanted, to be on the plane without a person telling me that, no, you can't go. I don't understand that concept. I never will. And I don't want to understand it either. So as far as like that aspect of freedom, yes, I understand that. And I knew that from like elementary school.
Wow. So I have to ask you, just because I don't know that I know your background. So me, I came from healthcare. I came from a 9-to-5. I went full time with my notary business in January. Also came from like a 9-to-5 space. With your father being an entrepreneur, like, have you had a traditional 9-to-5? Like, is that what you're transitioning from when you started your mobile notary business?
So my background is a little bit shaky, and I'll say this. So I'm going to start from graduation. I've always had jobs, not career. So I graduated from college in 2008, which, as we know, was the worst time probably to ever graduate from anybody's college, because literally speaking, the country was on a shutdown. So I interned with the Department of Juvenile Justice, was hoping to get a position as a juvenile probation officer. Once again, shut down. So every government position there was, nobody was hiring. So I feel like, to me, anybody who graduated in 2008, 2009, 2010 from college, you just had to hustle. So I did some of everything. I managed a restaurant, a small Jamaican restaurant. I did paperwork for a friend of mine who had a body shop. And so I just tapped into every single thing there was. I worked at Walmart overnight, which was a killer. That was a killer. And then, it was. And at one point, I called myself running away. I literally went to Jamaica. I was born here, but I'm a dual citizen, right? So I went to Jamaica on a one-way ticket. And I was like, I'm not coming back. America is too hard. And I mean, I didn't have a lot of money, but what I did have, it sufficed me. And then my family was like, you need to come back. And I was like, y'all gonna have to send for me. And it literally was like that. And when I came back, I tapped into, what is it called? Like Instacart and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The gig economy. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I tapped into gig economy, and I started doing Instacart, and I started to do, what's the name of the other one? Um, Postmates. And I tapped into
Mm.
those, and I knew I couldn't do Uber. I don't. This gonna sound weird, but I don't like people like that.
I don't
Like they're
either.
my internal space. So I was like, I'm not going. Y'all not driving in the car with me. I'll drop y'all food off though. That's literally what it was. And I really liked it. And so when I came back from Jamaica, that's exactly what I did. I tapped into the gig economy, and I saw quickly that I don't have to have a job to tap into certain resources. And a lot of people were in opposition to it because it was new. Um, but I was able to accumulate money like nobody's business. I was able to try. I was literally in another country every 2 months, if not every month. And
Wow.
so, man, I was killing it. And I came back and I worked. I mean, you turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah.
So
So it
Jessica, you
was
were doing multiple things at one time. All of the things you were saying, you were just doing all of
so
them.
so at when it came to the working, I was working those jobs prior to me leaving and going to Jamaica.
Okay.
Once I came
Okay.
back from Jamaica, though, I did Instacart first, and then I did Postmates, and then I kind of intertwined the two. So when I had space between Instacart, I tapped into Postmates, and then it went back and forth with that until I relocated to where I am now in Tennessee. And so it was more of a push for me to do both of them here so I could get familiar with the area. I didn't want to
Mm.
be GPS reliant because I wasn't GPS reliant at home. And so I was like, I'm in a new environment. There's only one way for me to know the place. Know the place is to force myself to go into certain areas. And that's exactly what I did. Um,
Love
when I
that.
s- when I did that, I came here in February, March of 2018. I ended up getting a job at a grocery warehouse here. And
Mhm.
that was a gig from like 2 p.m. to whenever the guys were finished, as I worked in the office. And I was so tired, but I would still do Instacart and Postmates in the morning. Like whenever I got up, I still did it, just like a few hours of it. And then I got some rest and then I went straight back to work. So, and then it kind of got very rocky for me because I was in a very bad car accident and everything shifted from there. And I just was at a 9 to 5 and that was it. So yeah, I
Wow.
hope that. So I changed positions in that warehouse job about 3 times. It was I'm in a predominantly white area,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
and I want to say that the amount of Black women, not men, because there's a lot of men in there, but as far as women, I can recall seeing one other Black female there, who I consider my work mom to this day. We still have a very good relationship. Other than that, there are probably two other ones at the warehouse. And so I was like, nah, these little environments, they're not for me. It's nothing about the race per se. It's more so standing in the gap for what they think I was standing in the gap for. And I'm not that person because you gonna read it all over me. I'm very vocal on certain issues, and I no one knows my political standpoint, but they assume they know because of a
Mm.
color. And
Mm.
I
Mm.
personally don't like that. But for the most part, the guys are good. The guys are pretty good. But when I got interest in being a notary, I'm gonna just tap into this. I should have said this before. I started to be a notary since the time I was in Florida. So Florida is where I'm from.
Okay.
I never did it. I did the test and everything. I never submitted for my commission though. So I never submitted the bond insurance, the information or anything. But I knew about money as far as being a notary from Andre Hatchett indirectly. So I tapped into some of his resources with a young lady by the name of Erica Williams, and she would always talk about Andre. Always talk about Andre. So eventually, I was like, I'm gonna tap into his course, but I never did. But my same friend in South Carolina, I was like, hey, I think you should be a notary. You should tap it. You could make some money, and he did it. So I really helped him start his business, but I never moved forward with mine. And this was like since like 2017. around that time. It was before I came here. I didn't tap into being a notary until November of 2020. I was like, nah, Jessica, you gonna have to, you need your own space and you need your own time. And I enjoyed my time at my 9 to 5 at the warehouse. It was just a little different environment for me, but I liked it because it was just learning a new concept, especially during this COVID time, and understanding the food market. I didn't think I was going to learn these things, but I understood the food market for what it is in these crises as it is, because there's literally no days off. And I
Yeah.
really feel it. So I have a different perspective when people go into these stores nowadays and like, oh, why y'all don't have this? Why y'all don't have this? There's a whole system in place, and I didn't understand that system until I was on the back end of it.
Mhm.
I hope that answered your
Wow,
question. I had to
that's
run over probably a little bit more.
amazing.
That was yeah.
So I have a follow-up question to that. So because you have such a colorful work history,
Mhm.
what did you gain from that? Because I know there are people who could look at that and because I know you mentioned like you never really had a career per se, but you've had like a multitude of jobs. But
Mhm.
as you were describing like all like your journey, it's like so many beautiful lessons you could have gotten from it. I'm sure it's made you stronger in ways you never thought you needed to be strong in. So I'm just curious, like what was your mindset experience from like the beginning when you left school and we were just having that economic crisis? We're in a whole nother one now, but I forgot all about 2008 besides the gas prices. I didn't think about because I graduated 2004, so
Mhm.
jobs were fine then and I was already working, but I would hear about the job crisis and people graduating and I just didn't think I never met anyone who actually had to pivot from not getting the traditional their career kicked off. So what was that experience like having the expectations not met, I guess, what you had dreamed of finishing
Oh,
school?
it was major for me. It really took me through I would say a downward spiral. It's very discouraging. It's discouraging because I also wanted to go to law school. That reality was like, nah, that ain't happening. So that was supposed to be my career path. And it was like, that ain't happening. I mean, I would be at these law school events, all kind of things. And it's like the reality is money. And then also I was supposed to I end up starting to say I'm gonna do law school in Jamaica and call it a day. But that whole dual citizen part became a very big problem for me because they're very picky on your name. So my middle name is hyphenated, and on my birth certificate here, it's not hyphenated. It's like, well, you're not the same person, and so they're very intricate on details, and it's understandable, especially with fraud as it is these days. But my mindset, I was very discouraged. I wondered what was the point. To this day, I kind of think that traditional school, as far as university, is probably one of the biggest scams. Um, the fortunate thing was that I didn't have a lot in student loan debt. However, it did take me forever to also pay off the balance of 6,000. I guess because it wasn't my priority either. It really wasn't. But other than that, I am glad for the experience of college. The one thing I think I wish I would have done differently is network more.
Mm.
If I had networked more, I do think that my outcome would have been a little bit different. And
Mm.
so I actually had an internship with a law clerk that was set up, but it was going to be in your area, actually, Korean. And my mom was like, you don't know anybody up there. Why would you go all the way up there? And so where I ended up doing my internship, I really didn't want to do it there, but my godmother worked there. So my mom felt like because it was local, it would be a better fit. So I felt like I was going downward because I'm from South Florida. So everything kind of has a meaning to me. You'll probably see that. I'm from South Florida, went to school in Tallahassee. And I was like, I need to start going up in elevation. So when I went back down to Florida, I'm like, yo, this is doomsday. I'm extreme with certain things. I was like, this is going to be the worst experience ever. I don't fit in. I played ball and stuff like that when I was in high school, but I'm not that girl. You know what I'm saying? I was not like, I was more antisocial and things like that. Those who know me, but that's about it. But as far as like how I
You
felt,
must not know me because The fact that I'm co-host of this podcast is a whole show. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry about
that. You're good, but that's why I really felt discouraged. I started to write a lot more. I started to tap into a lot of African millionaires. I have this blog post. I don't know where it's at right now. I really don't know where it's at right now, but I do remember writing a lot of blog posts then. And start understanding like different cultures, in particular African millionaires. I really want billionaires, I should say. I was like, how are they doing it? And then I started to understand that they're more so into the oils and things like that. But I was like, yo, you got to start tapping into other things. And it sounds a way. And to some people, it can sound like an excuse. I don't believe in waiting. I believe in doing things in the meantime, and whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. So yes, my work history is colorful, but the main thing I've taken from it was how are these businesses operating? That was the main thing. So we're not just looking at, okay, you work at Walmart, but I started to also work in the back of Walmart. So it became more of a logistic thing as well. Because I work better by doing things and not sitting stationary. And I found that out about myself. It's not about being at the office that's going to pay, I don't know, 80,000, because the numbers, they weren't mathing for me anymore, because here it is, you're at school and they say, oh, when you get out, you're going to be making this amount of money. You're going to make, that didn't happen for me at all. So that was already blocked out. So I was like, in order for me to make this amount, I'm going to have to do A, B, C. And I still want me some time freedom with it. So I knew that pretty early, in spite of being colorful. I didn't want to be miserable, because during that time, a lot of people were in these high paying jobs and miserable. And I mean, they were taking everybody out with them because of their mentality. So yes, though I was depressed, I don't know if I want to tap into that word depressed, because I think it's a very strong word. Though they were discouraged, though I was discouraged, and I did take that trip to Jamaica. It's like, yo, America is too hard. I also knew that I had to sell things, or I had to do something for a period of time and then move on to the next. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. That's so inspiring, because there's so many ways to get fulfillment, and there's so many lessons that you can get from unexpected places. And we always have a model for what we want our life to look like. I mean, we work hard, we go to school, we have these dreams, and we have certain expectations. But I just think it's phenomenal that you were able to say, okay, but here I am, and
That's
this is what I'm
exactly
going
what
to
it
do.
is.
There's a lot of people, I'm sure, I don't know if you know them, but I'm sure there are people just the way how people tend, popular opinion is, then they would just sit and wait on this high paying job and be depressed, and still wait because they have this degree and they feel only deserving of that. But instead, you probably got, a degree's worth of knowledge of how businesses work and how people are. And then your level of introspection about, what you can gain from things. I think that's a rarity. So that should be celebrated.
I think the number one thing that I did learn about all of this, throughout that journey, was the importance of personal development and your relationship with Christ. Those two are the most important things I learned out of it. In spite of my laziness sometimes, because it sounds colorful, but there are periods of being lazy too, right? So in spite of that, personal development was key. And if you want to tap into personal development, I think you naturally just tap into God, because you just know the source is coming from somebody or somewhere, and it's from there on. It's like, hey, I can do it. I don't care what you think about me. I don't seek validations, and I hate when I see people that do because of a particular career. And sometimes it's not their fault, to be honest, especially if you come from certain backgrounds or families. You have to be in certain arenas. And I was pretty adamant. I was like, hey, I don't got to do that. Are you paying for me to go to law school? If not, then I don't have to do it. I wanted to do it when I was younger. It's not me forsaking a dream either. And then as you get older, you kind of learn that a lot of these people they're not as what it seems. Put it like that.
That is so
It's
true.
not as what it seems.
Yeah.
So
There's two things that you mentioned that I just wanted to double back on. So the one thing that I noticed when you were talking about your work history, a lot of the positions that you've had were either a manager, leadership, like you said, background, logistics, admin, just kind of those spaces that you're more learning about, like you said, the business, and it's building up your personal business acumen versus when you're on the 9 to 5 side, when you're just being told what to do. You're not seeking why it is that you're doing it this way. You're not seeking, like you said, that bigger system in order to understand. And so, one, why do you think that, you as an individual kind of took that approach to start to try to understand the background part of it? And then the second part is, how do you think that helped you to where you are now in your own personal business? Because like you said, you understand the business part of the entrepreneurship. It's like, the social part and all those other things where we've kind of, the world have conditioned to be now that you have to have or do for your business to be successful. But how do you think your work history and just being in those type of environments where you're doing more of the background admin has helped you with your entrepreneur journey that you're currently on with your business?
I think it's because of how I think. I try to understand things. It has to make sense to me. I never want to just do without it making sense to me. And that's the biggest thing. And then to add to that, as far as the admin, my dad put us in that position pretty early. So two things. My dad actually owned a transportation company, one of the first ones in Broward County that had like contracts with hotels and things like that. So for tourists and things like that. So that was pretty early from when I was young. He started as a cab driver and then got his own jitney. And I feel like it's still an obligation for me to fulfill parts of that because it was in our names. Three of us are sisters' name. It's called JC Jitney Transportation. So Jessica, Ed Marie, and Claudine. And so we were the admins of his business for the most part. Like we didn't set it up and everything. He had a person that did that, but we were the secretary. We were the one answering the phones and things like that. Till this day, our names are still there, even though it's not in operation. And he also is a bishop. So we're once again on those documents as admins, as secretaries and things like that. So the introduction started early when it came to that. And I guess it just continued to line. I process things a little slower, and I'm realizing that about myself as I get older. I process things a little slower, and if it's happening around me too fast, I don't grab it because I realize that I'm trying to understand what's going on and why it's going on. It's not just about like putting something on the shelf because there's a whole system behind it. And how that taps into my business, there's a whole system behind everything. So earlier we were talking about with Google. Google has your system, and I'm really trying to understand it so that it could profit. I mean, so it can benefit my business. So not only monetarily, but I really want to be in people's faces because I know that I'm not that person that's going to take flyers out and just hand it to people. So my system has to work on the back end for me. If that goes, I'm not that talker that's gonna walk up to you, hey, I'm a notary. Da, da, da. I'm not her. I'm really not that person. So, and I'm fine with that. I've come to be fine with that and realize that's me, and I'm okay with that. And so, because of that, you may not call me on the phone, but hey, I got a system in place, and you're gonna go all the way through my system. But and when you do get me on the phone, you're not gonna think I'm this shy little girl, well, young lady who once I get to your appointment, I'm a little bubblier. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm bubbly for a time. And after that, once I get in my car, I'm not gonna say I'm a whole different person, but it's like, okay, what could I've done better with my system? That's all I'm thinking about. The system. And everything is a system. And once that is understood, I personally think that all of our businesses will be good. It is not the social media aspect. Because I don't understand that world. I've never been diagnosed. I am self-diagnosed, ADHD. And if it's not making sense to me right then, it's probably going to slip me the next second or the next 3 seconds until I revisit it again. And I revisit it mentally, probably when I'm in the shower. But my roommate said I have a whole counseling session. She's like, nope, I can't talk right now. I'm trying to think. And everything will come back eventually. I'm like, okay, boom, that didn't make sense. But dang, Jessica, why did you do that? I don't know. That's just how my brain is wired. It doesn't process things as I'm just going to pick this up and put it on the shelf. It processes like, okay, I'll put this on the shelf. How do the store know that this is gone? Kind of thing. So, yeah.
That sounds like an entrepreneurial mindset to me.
I mean, honestly, she's dropping all the
I be hard on myself. Y'all gotta forgive me. I be hard on myself.
Yeah, like
not from a comparison factor, from like comparing myself to other people's business. I just don't feel like I'm where I need to be systematically, and so that's probably where it is.
Wow,
that's good.
Yeah, you quite far along. You know, some people like they don't take the time to think, be thoughtful about things. They'll just do what's trending, or they'll just do what's already tried and true, and it may not fit them. It may not fit their work style, their personality, what they enjoy, and so they end up either tapering off, burning out because it doesn't fit them. So to take the time to be okay and to recognize that you're not chatty Kathy that's in people's faces advertising and extremely engaging, but you still can build a very successful business by first accepting who you are and then creating a system that works for you. Like a lot, and I'm so glad we're doing this podcast about this particular topic, because there's so many people, especially on social media, you look at them, and I know I'm guilty of that, looking at how other people are showing up, and I feel like I'm missing the mark, but that's just not me.
And you got to be okay with that.
With who I am, but still, here's the issue with me. I can be okay and then don't take no action. But you gotta give yourself permission to create your own lane that works for you. Like there really are, and I tell Tiara all the time, we have to remind ourselves there are no rules. As an entrepreneur, we create our own rules. And so to know, you figure out what really works, and you create a whole machine around it, and you can be Jessica all day, every day, and get more business than the loudest person in the room. So that's,
you know what I realized is key. You know what I realized is key, because I watch a lot of people. I listen to a lot of things. Unfortunately, but fortunately, I buy into a lot of courses too that I may or may not like get into immediately. One thing I do realize is that if you're whatever industry you're in, you cannot just focus on that industry and surround yourself with those people, because you're gonna, especially in our industry, there is but so much information that's out there, right? So people are gonna model their businesses off of the Mark Wills, which is good. There are parts of him that I do like, but instead of me completely dismissing people, I'll say, okay, this is what I'm gonna pick from this person. This is what I'm gonna pick from this person. I like CEO Matty J. This man talks about documenting the process on everything, no matter what it is. I like Neil Davis. I love how he really gets people wild up to do certain things. I don't think that you can feel discouraged around this man. Right. And like you kind of see like that's how they operate. A lot of them started in different industries and they ended up being together. So I feel like especially a lot of notaries, if they can tap into the different spaces, I promise you, I think that we already know we have the best thing that's out there, right? And I think that's what Andre Hatchett did. Now that I'm thinking about it, he tapped into so many different arenas, and it allowed people like us to be introduced to an industry that has been one of the best kept secrets. As far as money, the amount of money that we can make in this industry is crazy. And now you can be small-minded and only think about loan signings with it. But when I have clients that's booking me for 2 signatures and my minimum fee is $65, and it can go up to wherever it goes to. And sometimes, I mean, they just find a link and they book, and I'm like, dang, that's a lot. They just spent a lot. But I don't at first, it took a long time for me to be okay with that because of the fact that I was like, dang, man, this person just paid this much money. I feel so bad. What else can I offer them? I used to feel so bad. I was like, man, I feel
me
like
too.
I'm robbing them.
Yeah.
But I don't think when I started to realize is that we take this industry for granted. And me in particular in Tennessee, we have nothing to do more than pay the money. And that is it. We don't take a test or anything. When I started to realize that other states, they have 8-hour tests, they got to pay for these courses. I'm like, okay, I totally understand why they operate how they operate in those other states. And then you will also understand the importance of your signature. Like people like to say, oh, that's just the notary. No, I am the notary. Because
Right.
without me signing this correctly, your house isn't going to get sold. Your house isn't going to be bought. Your documents would not stand up in court. And once I got that in my mind, and I took it out my head that, oh, I'm just the notary that can just do a physical, sign off on a physical. No, my signature is in place for when these kids want to be, when they're going off to the next level of being a doctor and applying for licensure, my signature is there. In order for certain businesses to be here in the state of Tennessee, and they call me and they say, hey, I need a notary to sign off on this business article. Hey, I'm here. Now your business is in the state of Tennessee. And once we get that concept right there, I promise you everything become easier. I don't feel bad about it. It's not even about the gas price for me. It's about knowing your value. And I tapped into that from listening to the CEO Matty J's, the Todd Capital, Erica Williams. That's tapping into all these people that's not in the same industry.
Wow, that's real.
I don't have nothing to say.
Yeah, so extra.
I was about to pull my notebook out, but I'm on camera.
No, that was good. That was perfect. And you know what it is? And I say this too, for me, when I came into this industry, like I knew that I just didn't want to be at my previous job anymore. I've worked in healthcare for about 10 years. And I felt like, you know what, if I'm going to take this opportunity, let me take this opportunity. I felt like notary just kind of kept coming to me in such like, not mysterious ways, but it's literally nothing but God, because nothing else makes any sense. Like when I say I had went, the first time I ever heard about notary, I had went to my nail salon. These is press-ons, but I had went to the nail salon. And I didn't make an appointment, and my guy that I usually go to, every time I went there, he's been open, but this particular time he was closed. It was a younger Black woman with her daughter, so probably someone around my age and probably where my daughter was at that time, and it was an older Black woman. And they were on the opposite ends, and the person that I got assigned to, I was right in the middle. And so they're having I guess it's a little rude, but they having a conversation. I'm in the middle, and I'm just listening. And she's just, at first, I didn't know what she was talking about, but she was just explaining, like, I do this on the side. There's different associations you can be along with. You can go to hospitals, you can do this. She's basically like giving this whole spiel of what would be my career in like a year's time. So when she's talking, she's just explaining about all the opportunities and how we're the same as you, Jessica. We don't have a law where you have to take a test or anything. We do now. So starting, I believe, in October of 2022, if you want to be a notary in New Jersey, you have to take, I believe it's a 6-hour course and then a test, and then you do have to pay. Where when I did it, you just went and signed up online, you had an endorsement from City Hall, and then you got your commission once you got sworn in. And I know, Corinne, for you, you have to do a typical license, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So
and in 2020, they 2021, they started you have to have a notary test, pass a test as well. I think because the volume of notaries were out of this world.
Yeah.
And they like, wait a minute now, some dummies out here. You got to pass the test.
But also, I do feel like with COVID, because a lot of states and state governors and officials were leaning on each other to understand and get through this, I think the communication started to happen. Right. And I think realization that it's not consistent. It's like, okay, I don't know if they all sat down and was like, let's talk about the notaries, but just in general, it does kind of seem like that, especially from like New Jersey standpoint. But it was just that conversation. And I was like, you know what? I've heard like this is my first time hearing of it. And then I started to hear about it in like music, like Moneybagg Yo has a lyric where he talks about a notary. And then I was that infamous commercial when you're on YouTube. I'm like doing my meditation and the whatever his name is, John comes.
John Snyder.
Yeah, you want to make something with your notary stamp? I'm like, well, let me look into this because clearly it was a lot going on. And then I came across like Sophia Martin and I came across Rafael. And it's something when you get in line with people who are ahead of you, right? And these people are in the same industry as me. But to your point, Jessica, when you're speaking about, you know, the Neo Davises, the Todd Capitals, and those just individuals, CEO Maddie J, those individuals who elevate your mind, when you get into those rooms, you become a different person. You almost kind of have to, you know what I mean? You have to. And it's such a benefit if you can get into those spaces. There's so many different ways you can get access. And like, thank God to the internet for that. But there's just so many different ways that you can get access to the information that you need, get in the rooms, get in the spaces, whether you have to pay for them or not. You know what I mean? And it propels your mindset. It propels your business like acumen. Like for me, I'm still in the business stage. Like I'm 6 months into my first business ever. And my dad owned a business back in the day before I was born. And even when I told him I was leaving my job to start this business, he was just kind of like, "Ooh, girl, you know, that's hard, right?" And I'm like, we'll see. Like, right. You know?
It's funny that you bring that up. It's funny that you bring up your dad response, because I was a bit surprised at my dad's response.
Really?
When I finally made this statement that, hey, I'm gonna leave my job and I'm gonna do this full time, my mom, she expressed her concerns, then my dad expressed his. And I'm like, you're the one person that always talked about this entrepreneurship with us. Why are you apprehensive? And I guess from a parental standpoint, I kind of get it. But I was like, I've never been that child that called and asked for finances. Do you not think that I'm responsible enough to make a decision that I think is profitable? Now, in hindsight, I wasn't thinking that my dad doesn't know this industry as well as we do. So we know we can charge for travel. We know that we can charge and make a certain amount just doing real estate documents. My dad's thinking is that, oh yeah, you can do, it's $5 a signature kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And that is how they see it. And that's how, when I think about it, that's how everybody else sees it. So my dad would say, well, you can do business documents, which is true. And he's like, I think you should get an office. If I was going full throttle like that and then just doing business documents for other people, he'll be 100%. But I was like, now I'm just going to do the notary aspect. I never broke it down to him to say, well, I charge this. In the state of Tennessee, when I tell you that we have nothing, we don't have a set fee that we charge for travel nor for notarization. So they really let us out here. I mean, I appreciate it. I'm not going to talk about it, talk against it, because I know some states, they're pretty limited, like $250 and things like that. And so we don't have that. So that's a good and a bad thing, because you don't know what's okay until you know that somebody paid it. Right. And then you don't know what's too low until you realize, well, dang, I'm cheating myself out of money. So it's one of the two things. But I'm sorry to cut you off, Tiara, but I was so surprised at my dad's reaction. I remember I was in a restaurant, almost about to cry. I'm the baby, by the way, so I'm the last child. And I'm like, dang, why you the entrepreneur, man? Like, why you doubting me? Why you doubting my skills? But I also get it, because I'm not at home. I'm in a whole nother state.
Yeah.
Ain't no family around me. So it's like, yo, you really doing this? But now the conversation is totally different. The conversation is how many cases he call them cases? How many cases did you have today? Okay, if I say I only had one, okay, no worries, probably tomorrow you'll get two, or well, he'll say things like that. So the conversation has shifted from a doubt to, okay, well, Jessica still isn't calling us for no money, so that means that she's doing at least decent. So that's kind of how I see it. That's kind of how I say. I don't know if that's how he think it, but that's how I receive it.
I know I didn't tell my family that I started my business until, because I had to, I became a notary, then I had to study for the typic, which I didn't know until after I became a notary. And then I'm like, I'm ready to start loan signings. So I had to study for many weeks to pass the state exam, which was very hard for me. Once I did that, I said, I have to at least get 3 signings under my belt so I know that I'm a legit operator of my business. Because what if I can't do it, or it's too hard, or whatever, or I'm not getting any business, and I've already announced to the world I started a business? Because people are going to naturally have doubts. I've always had I went to college, 9 to 5, corporate, government, and all of that, and I quit that due to stress and all of that. And instead of just getting another job, I started a notary business. And I still hadn't wrapped my brain around how it all completely works. And everyone understands that you only make X amount of dollars per stamp. And so I had to build my own confidence first. So some people felt away because I told them later, while they think I'm looking for a job, I'm like studying to pass a test. And then, I started my loan signings. And then the business was, at that time in 2020, it was like, it was so much business. So I felt more confident, and that's when I started to share, because I understand that our family have good intentions. They love us. They want us to be able to take care of ourselves. They don't want us to be blindly ambitious. But sometimes I wouldn't say be blind, but sometimes you got to have a little crazy in you to push past what our programmed way of being, especially in this country, is. It's just a way that the majority of us should be. You should be a worker, you should work for someone, and that keeps the economy going and all of that. But we also need we need to leverage our own unique abilities and creativities and our own ambitions and dreams. Like, who said we can't do that? And so you sometimes got to shut out people, those who love you, and really be on your mission. And then over time, they'll buy in. But I didn't want to get discouraged because I wasn't all in yet. I wasn't sure. I thought I was, but I'm like, I don't know more than my family. So let me get some confidence. And then I started to tell people, and now they're like, now everybody brags about my notary business and try to explain, it's not just per stamp. You can do this, you can do that.
As they should. It's just the education. I realize that's why people are apprehensive on paying a certain fee as well. It's the information that was pushed out to them that, it's just a notary. Like I said, now I'm the notary, and it makes sense. And once you change the narrative in your mind, and you change the narrative in the mind of everybody else around you, the more people grab the concept. In particular, the more of our people that grab the concept, that don't want to, why is it costing that much money? Okay, well, I understand that you're coming to me, but why you can't do it for free? I can't do that, man. It's a business. If I want to do it for free, let me do that. But don't make me feel like I have to do it.
Right.
And that's where that difference comes in. And man, you just touched so many points. See, the thing is, I don't know if I mentioned, I worked my business for 1 year while also working. So I literally was doing I think is what is his name? Dave Proctor. He said, I'm working full-time on my job and part-time on my business until I can work full-time on my business and part-time on my fortune, or something like that, he said. I didn't quote that correctly. I'm gonna look it up though. But that was one of those personal development things. And I was like, I'm gonna work this for a year and see how it is. And I literally became an agent without realizing, a notary agency without even realizing I was a notary agency, because we have a network here of notaries. And I was like, I'm at work, I can't do this assignment. Hey, can somebody do this assignment for me? And at this point, I had just started my calendar, so people would just be booking on the site, and I'm like, oh shoot, what am I supposed to do? I'm at work. I'm not gonna call these people like, hey, I can't do it right now. I always started thinking big with this, like as far as like, this is not just a little business, it's gonna be a big business, right? That's how I told myself. I ain't got nobody on my team like that, but I was like, I'm gonna have to be a part of a network. So I knew that from early. Then it was like, I'm at work, how am I gonna get this out? So I will send some people a message. I was like, hey, can you do this assignment for me? And how much did you charge? I was doing that so early. I did not realize I was doing an agency.
Outsourcing,
Until I start hearing people talk about having an agency such as Nathaniel. That's when it clicked to me that I had a whole agency. I wasn't even thinking about it. And to this day, that's pretty much how I operate. If I can't do the assignment, I'm sending it to somebody else. I'm asking a group of people that's here, hey, can somebody do this assignment for me? And then what I do realize is that people will say, well, how much did you tell them? Like, no, they already booked. And so my conversation was a little bit different too. It was more from that, as you mentioned earlier, that management standpoint. Hey, this person booked already. What's your fee? And then I'll send it out to them. It was a system being created that I didn't even realize was being
That's
created.
amazing. That's awesome. Yeah.
That's good.
And so January was when I took the leap in January, and I said I'm gonna give myself 3 months. It's been well over 3 months, and there were some discouraging days a part of that, especially when I first started. I was like, this don't feel right. I'm just sitting at home. How is this gonna work? And it just nothing clicked then, and I knew one thing. My word for this year is perseverance. I knew that much. And I was like, by any means necessary, just to persevere. That was the one thing that clicked to me when nothing else wasn't making sense. My last day at work was January 14th of 2022. And I was like, by any means necessary. I'm gonna just do it for 3 months just to see if I knew that the industry, not the industry, but the market was changing in terms of real estate. And I was like, man, is this leap? I know I'm not going to be as busy as the previous year, but what am I going to do? That's when I really started to tap into the other things. Like I knew about being a wedding officiant, but I didn't know about being a wedding officiant. I knew somebody booked me to read the vows, but I never I didn't tap into it as I am now. It wasn't learning necessarily the vows or the different vows. It was like most of my people really wanted me to just sign and go. And I was fine with that. And then I started to realize that, hey, even if it is a sign and go, I still need to pronounce you husband or wife or whatever it is, right? And so I did that. And I was like, okay, that's the easy part. But with it, I'm still a bit timid on getting in front of people. Like Tiara, I'm not there yet. I ain't there yet. I can get in front of two.
So you've done like the really small, you haven't done like a whole ceremony with people and guests yet.
Nah, I ain't there yet. I don't even offer that service. I do 2 people max. If other people and see, for me, it's also about that being shy bit. And I'm realizing that I'm breaking out of it because I see myself filming in areas that I probably would never did a video in. And I was like, why am I stopping myself? Like, Jessica, like, when are you going to grow out of this? It would literally be me talking to myself. Like, when are you going to grow out of this? Why are you stopping yourself? Who is going to stop you? What are they going to say? What are they going to do more than look? That's the one thing people always look. And then probably make a little snide remark or whatever it is. And then it's like, okay, what next?
Right.
So what? Keep going. Like, keep going. And that's what it is. And that's all about how this industry is. For real estate kind of slow down, what else? Keep going. Don't be like one of those people that's going to say, oh, that business doesn't work because look how it just slowed down. Like that's every industry has its ebbs and flows, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things I learned in the grocery industry and where I worked. I mean, they were making so much money. I think per week they were like at like something billion per week. Just my location, and we had like 7 locations, and just my location was like some odd billion, in particular during COVID time. And this was every single day, but you knew when there was a slower season and you knew when there was a fast season. And that in particular time was when I realized ebbs and flows in business. And then so I was prepared for the ebbs and flows. I just didn't necessarily know how to tap into the other areas of the notary industry. But now I know them because now I'm looking into them. And you mentioned something earlier, Tiara, about having people online that can be, I want to move forward and say they can be your mentors without them even knowing that they're your mentors. And I think I learned that from David Imonitier. And he said, he's like, you don't have to know a person for them to be your mentor. Once you buy a book or you read a book from them or you read anything, and it's a lot easier now because you could tap into their social media and they can mentor you. I've never spoken to Matty J. Well, actually, he's very good on replying to messages. So I've never really spoken to him, but I watch a lot of his stuff. He's my mentor. He
That's
don't even
right.
know I exist.
That's right.
No.
Tiger didn't know I existed for a long time. Tech didn't even know I existed for a long time, but I was tapping into them from like last year. Like last year, I was doing so many things that they were doing. I didn't even realize that I was doing it because I was tapping into people that were one, they looked like me and they were doing something outside of loan closing. I didn't like the fact after a while, loan closing didn't make sense to me. It did, the money behind it did not make sense. I'm like, I gotta print out all these documents. I gotta go to you, and I see now. I see that I can go to you and do 2 signatures and charge you a certain amount of money and leave, and I'm only there for 10 minutes. Not even. It didn't make sense to me. It still don't make sense to me unless I get the money that I want.
Right.
And I still feel
and I'll tell you this much. I don't know that a lot of people did it, but I'm gonna do this one thing too. If in order for it to make full sense to me, and I know I'm going on another narrative, but in order for it to make full sense to me, I was like, I'm at least gonna have to get reviews from this person. Now, some people were apprehensive towards. Now you need to build up my Google page because I'm building that up too. So please build that up.
Yeah.
Give me some reviews. Yeah. I'm not getting the money that I want, but I'm getting the reviews. So it balanced out to me.
That's good.
No, I love that. And well, first of all, you touched on so many things. So I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate you being transparent. I appreciate you being, vulnerable and sharing with us, a lot of who you are and how you've pushed past. Because I think what people are going to identify the most about this episode is like, one, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to want to persevere. Like you have to want to try to figure it out. You have to want to be okay with yourself and find your own lane. And I feel like you just exemplified all of that for us, and so eloquently, I might add. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, ladies.
Yeah. So the where we like to wrap it up is we love to give people like actionable steps or like actual tools to add to their toolbox. So with me in particular, and Corinne, we talk about this like literally all the time. We need tangible things to do. And sometimes we can adapt from what somebody else is doing to fit ours. Or I never thought about that before. I thought about it in that way before. And now that gave me something else. You're giving me something. So I just wanted to know what are some of your tools that you use to persevere. I feel like perseverance was something that was like a common thing which stood out the most to me and what is most necessary in entrepreneurship, no matter what the industry is. So what are some of the tools or things or actionable steps that you do to keep you persevering and keep you pushing and showing up for your business every day?
One thing I would say is self-care. I'm tapping into that. And I'm noticing the importance of self-care in terms of your presentation, right? So, and that's actionable because like every day now I'm not doing less than 10,000 steps. Why is that important? Because I'm creating a discipline for myself and I'm also getting out there in nature and I'm just allowing my mind to think, right? Just to flow. And I may or may not be listening to something, what do you call it? Some form of motivational or inspirational video. So in doing that, I'm doing 2 things. I am working on fitness because I believe all of it is intertwined. How you view yourself is how confident you will be in front of people and not make yourself small in certain rooms, right? So it's doing that, it's working on that. That's just a byproduct. And you're also filling yourself up with information. And once you fill yourself up with information, now you can go out there and share it. So it's 3 things in probably more than 3 things in one, but that's the one most actionable thing. because you're it's creating so many levels of discipline.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the
Self-care
other
is
thing was just the tapping into every tap into as much as you can, but don't become a information junkie. Tap into it and grab what you need to grab from it. You don't have to grab everything. Just grab what you need to grab for that time that you're in. I think that's where a lot of us mess up at. We just try to grab everything. You don't need everything. You can only drink one bottle of water at a time. You don't need to drink a whole gallon in one sitting. It's not going to go down. It's not even healthy for you to drink so much at one time. So just do piece by piece, little by little, and that's how you create your whole. It's literally, I hate to recite that it's not a race, it's a marathon, because that can go either way. Life is a journey, and every day that you're alive is learning something. And for you to learn, you have to put yourself in your environment for learning. It doesn't matter what everybody else thinks, your environment for learning. And it might be while you're taking walks. It might be. So
I love
thank you
that.
for that. Thank you. That's so valuable. And as I've been listening to you speak, I'm constantly thinking, I'm listening through the ears of someone who will be watching the podcast, and I always keep in mind people who feel, because I've had my journey, Tiara has hers, and we've had our ups and our downs as we're evolving, coming out of jobs. And so a lot of the times when you start off, especially in this social media age, it's tons of information, it's tons of free information, and then it's tons of measurements of where other people are. And so one thing we sometimes forget is that we have to create our own path and be okay with picking and choosing the information that applies to ourselves and our businesses. And I think this episode was so valuable because it reinforces that whole idea of giving ourselves permission to do it our way. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. We don't have to be clones. We don't have to be fierce competitors, because we lose that way.
right.
I think the world needs our uniqueness, our individualities, our gifts of creativity. I think that's so valuable. And I think you sharing that is just, it's going to affect someone in a very, very special way, because you say it in such a unique way, the things that you expressed. And because it's just touched me, because you're speaking to me like right now, like, let's be honest, you're talking to me.
Right.
You're talking to me, right. And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, ladies. I really do appreciate. I don't talk much. Well, when I do talk, I talk, but I don't talk much. I think a lot of people look at my page and they're like, "Yo, this chick, she don't really be about nothing." Honestly, I got a VA that does a lot of my social media. I can't keep up with social media. I grew up in the era of Facebook, and that was it. IG and stuff like that. It doesn't make sense to me. But what I do know is that it makes a difference, the information you put out. Because if it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't have met you two, right? And so it draws what it needs to draw, and then it's important to tap into the person individually. And so that's what I get. I tapped into both of you ladies before you even knew it, if that makes sense. That's that, not to sound like that doesn't sound right.
No, I think
I look into people before I work with them, put it like that. Because I think that makes a difference. And that's how all of this makes sense to me, looking into the person before I start to work with them. And then I kind of know the angle. And it's just how this business is. You have to be strategic. Even with your podcast, you have to be strategic. Because what I do know is that people appreciate information until it's something that doesn't benefit them anymore, right? And once it doesn't benefit them anymore, now all the goodness that you built up is no longer good. And now the world is going to hear about all the badness from one little person being right here that doesn't need to be right here, or one comment that was made that doesn't need to be on here. Now you're the worst person in the world, right? So it's just being important and doing your research of the people that you have on here. And I do appreciate you ladies for having me on here. This is my first ever podcast.
Really?
This is my first ever podcast. So you guys have definitely you guys have made the way. You have made the way, and I appreciate it. I don't take it lightly at all. And it's definitely something I wanted to tap into myself from before. However, you ladies done it. It's appreciated. I'm sure you guys are going to touch a lot of people with a different aspect, except for just talking about the industry, but tapping into the mindset, which is going to be the biggest thing. Because if your mind is not right, you cannot operate this business. You can't even tap into this industry properly.
That's real.
Right.
That's real. Well, yeah, thank you so much. No, we definitely appreciate you. You really gave us gems, honey. Okay. I need you to start talking more because people got to hear what you got to say. And I'm going to say this and then we're going to, wrap it up and say our goodbyes. But I noticed you because of what you were posting, how you were posting it, the conversations you were having. You were showing up in the same rooms as me, and I knew what I was going for. So when I start to see people show up in the same spaces as me, that makes me feel like I know what you're going for too. So I understand what you're saying when you're tapping in with someone before you start to work with them, before you start to really just, because it's a lot of, smoke and mirrors out here. And it's a lot of people who are, not doing what they want to do, how they want to do, and all these other things, and then just creating a facade around it. So, we always appreciate and try to connect with people who are genuine, people who don't claim to have it all figured out, people who don't claim to be the experts, but who are willing to learn, who are executing, and who are taking those additional steps to understand for themselves, for their business. And I recognize that about you, in the beginning. I was like, oh, she in these rooms. Oh, okay. I like that.
Mama.
Yes, I appreciate you. So thank you so much. Share your socials so people can connect with you. If you have anything coming up, going on, let us know. We know you're going on vacation, but so shout out to vacay. But yeah.
As far as my socials on Facebook, on Facebook and Instagram, it's at Nashville On Time Signings. Again, that's Nashville On Time Sign is exactly how it's pronunciated. And then of course my personal page is just Jessica Cammock on Facebook. That's all I have for right now as far as any socials are concerned. And I definitely look forward to continue to learn from you ladies and also learn from your other guests that's going to be on your show, past and future. And just feel free to tap in. If there are any questions that you do have, feel free to reach out to me. I am that person that will answer questions as long as it's not.
As long as it's not crazy, because you'll get blocked.
Crazy. As long as it's not crazy, as long as it's not, like a whole 6 feet mirror worth of, questions. You have these lovely ladies to tap into and, tap into their resources, their books and everything else. So that's always what it is.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. I appreciate you. Thank you for the space that you shared with us. This has been so rewarding for me. I'm going to replay this because it's little pieces in there that was speaking to me. I should have just been writing it down, but I didn't want to look away from the screen. So thank you so much. Thanks for this session. Until next time. Bye.
Womenomics podcast.